What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast. And this whole SWIFT dilemma and sanctions on Russia is quite interesting because if it were to shut down the ability for their banks to transact, right, using the SWIFT messaging system, it would not only affect their country, but other countries that do trade with Russia because they wouldn't be able to receive, therefore, export or import, whatever the case may be. And I think there's unintended consequences, just like Jamie Dimon says here, that it could be circumvented, okay? So it says just hours. So this goes into the whole, a little overview of what's happening. And then it says there are a lot of workarounds for SWIFT, says Jamie Dimon. So there are different tools we use for different reasons. Adding that the banks are talking with the government so everyone understands the issues, not because they're for or against any particular thing. While the SWIFT sanctions mean companies can't use the messaging system to do business with Russian entities affected, they can still do business with them. In fact, it's as simple as sending an email with payment instructions, because that's what SWIFT really is. It's a messaging remnant from a bygone era before emails, even before the fax machine. Okay, he said that disconnecting the Russian banks from the SWIFT messaging system may bring unintended consequences that could include third parties. And what countries do you hurt? Well, people are going to do workarounds. And then he refers to bad players, and very targeted, very specific, very clean, etc., etc. Now, this is interesting because there's a video of Dan Pena, and I don't know if you guys know about him, but he was talking about how Putin was behind Bitcoin. So wouldn't it be interesting if you started seeing Russia utilize Bitcoin in order to do whatever transactions? Now, that would be a headline. That would rock the markets. And global markets would probably go into a frenzy. And it's interesting because Christine Lagarde was talking about that they need crypto regulation. So this could turn into a very, very interesting scenario. And this would bring about the regulation that's needed for what would eventually be a CBDC. And that CBDC would utilize a lot of these blockchain protocols, right? That several of these digital assets follow. And what better way to bring about a CBDC during this time when they can say, oh, we need it for safety because we don't know what these Russian spies or people are going to do, these Russian leaders. They could definitely angle it in that way. But however, I think prior to that we'd have cyber attacks, because you need a crisis, right? You need max pain for people to accept something like that, knowing what CBDCs bring to the table. So I think it's going to be a volatile, bumpy year. And what else did you guys expect? We've been talking about this quite extensively on this channel. And I think it's something to keep in mind. Now here it says the U.S. is in a unique position of having the global reserve currency, which underpins a substantial portion of international trade and foreign exchange transactions, while also granting the executive fairly broad discretion through this agency or institution to restrict U.S. capital flows by invoking security concerns. The widespread use of the dollar in international markets, for instance, allows the U.S. to affect foreign policy goals through financial market channels. So, having hard power, and may also confer certain reputational benefits. However, overuse of these powers could compel other actors to try to replace dollar transactions, as Russia already did some extent following earlier sanctions. So, I'll keep an eye on this, but hey, CBDCs is something to keep your eye on. I think that's where we're headed. And in order to get the regulation and everything needed for that, you're going to feel there's going to be max pain along the way. So, anyway, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. This is the Digital World Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.